Hey, ow, yeah, here. Shall we make a game? So, I was hoping to avoid programming on stream as much as possible because honestly, don't think it's terribly interesting. But today it is way too hot to use the pillow fort approach to block the lighthouse. So I can't really do any texturing, which means I can't do any 3D modeling, as the low poly style I tend to specialize in. It's just basically texturing. You know, the actual models tend to be really simple. So, and of course that requires color, which requires good light. So, what I've actually been working on here is kind of like a sort of an entity component system because you kind of need it to a degree. I'm trying to avoid going full Unity because I actually think Unity's entity component system is not great from what I've used of it. I thought it's quite sort of annoying to work with. But you still need like the ability to have like objects and kind of attach things to them. You know, like say a character and then have like a mesh attached to them, and then that needs to be stored somewhere centrally so that you can say have it be rendered. You can have it be hit tested. So that's when you click on the screen, we can tell what you've actually clicked on. There's probably other things as well. I'm not thinking of, but that gets kind of complicated because at that point you've got you need basically like a central sort of, I guess, kind of like linchpin, like a central sort of like entity record that you can remove, and all of those aspects get removed. So what I was originally doing is I had like tons of aspects in here. I had like one for like look targets, so what characters will look at. I had ones for also have ones for kind of like hit test, and I've since gone, no, I'm going to simplify that, strip it back, because what it meant you had was a big long queue of callbacks, and when it came to say do a hit test, you'd have to run through the callbacks. Every single one of them would then have to have some kind of ID passing. This has been written in C. There's no polymorphism here. There's no classes. And not just that, it's C without a memory allocator, so everything needs to be statically allocated. Just because I don't want the complexity of a memory allocator in the WASM host that just gets... these are banded simulations. They should be able to run without a memory allocator. So yeah, ideally, I want to have, say, a straight list of all of my static meshes, everything that's kind of like here. Well, not just static meshes, every opaque mesh. Because if I can just run through it in a straight line from beginning to end, just render every single one of them when it comes to render, and then when it comes to do a hit test, that's when we're figuring out what you've clicked on. Again, you just run from the very beginning to the very end. There's no additional complexity in there. It's just a straight line. But that means that when it comes to actually creating and destroying components, there's actually quite a bit of kind of like massaging of the data here. I don't want a sparse list. I want a the opposite of a sparse list, whatever that is. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of music on that I can hear, you guys can't, just so I stop mumbling. What am I going for today? I really should have picked something first, shouldn't I? Now, one of the things about like picking music for this is I need to make sure I pick something with no lyrics, because otherwise I will sing, and you do not want to hear that. I don't have a lot of instrumental music, actually. I should probably get on that. My thrilling... my thrilling streams where I pick music and you can't see what I'm doing. That'll do. Right, so let's go for the errors, because I don't remember where I got to this last time. I didn't have a return type on that. That's now fixed. Okay. Yeah, despite the fact this is coming from a fixed size array, I can't just assign it. It's a bit weird, but it wouldn't be the first weird thing in C. Oh yeah, this isn't currently implemented. So yeah, because I've got this kind of like dense list, right? But then I want to be able to give the someone who creates an opaque mesh, I want to be able to give them an ID. So that ID that they can then use to control that mesh later on down the line. If they need to change which mesh it's showing, if they need to be able to move it, they can just basically give the ID again. But if I have a dense list of transforms and meshes, whenever I remove one, all of the indices change, so I can't just give you the ID. Kind of annoying, but it's how it is. So I need to actually keep track of those IDs separately, and then whenever I hand one out, I need to keep it listed. And then whenever I go to edit these, I need to actually find the index of the component ID in there, so I know which transform mesh to edit. So let's add a function to do that. Yeah, we're doing lots of prefixing here. Okay, so I have this EF error function. It's kind of a bit, well, it's unfinished at the minute. It doesn't actually store the error anywhere. But it turns out that WebAssembly has this handy unreachable instruction. And when you hit that, the entire application just quits. So I can kind of use that as sort of an exception trap. I'm never going to be handling exceptions in this application. Like I say, it's a bounded simulation. It should never, ever hit one of these. And if it does, it's just cause for the entire thing to stop. So let's just see if we can find that in the list of component IDs. And if we do, then return the index. Nice and simple. And then we're going to call into this here. We don't need to check anything came back, because if we didn't find the component, we just crash the entire application. That's actually how I handle when this fixed size array kind of overflows. I just go, no, application just crashes. That's actually how Doom did things. I think modern source ports probably don't do that, but it worked for Doom. It'll probably work for us. Something kind of weird that I've done is I've actually made types that represent the exact WASM types. In this case, using standard int, but just because I know that my only target is WASM, so I always want to be kind of like working in that space. Always thinking in it. That's nice and simple, isn't it? And then I need to copy the individual IDs across, so the individual axes of the transform across. So copy this over here because it's basically the same code. I wonder if I could actually make this reusable, this section. Maybe. Is it worth it? Probably not. Okay, that's that sorted. Next up, we need to write the destructor. So when you create a component, you actually pass in a destructor, and that's basically just called whenever it gets removed, whether you're removing that individual component or whether you're removing the entire entity. So in this case, what it needs to do is it needs to basically just remove, because you have your queues here of your meshes and transforms. It needs to cut that component out. So that is actually taking in a component ID. It's not parameterless. So again, we need to get the index from, there it is. We can reuse this up here. Again, we don't need to check if it exists because it'll just crash if it doesn't. Okay, now this is where things get complicated. It always gets complicated in this part. We now need to kind of shuffle the array kind of down a bit. We need to basically move every item in our list of meshes and transforms down by one index, the idea being that it kind of overwrites the one you've removed and leaves no gaps, so you can continue to run through the whole array without really thinking about it. Let's reduce the amount we have in there, and then yeah, let's loop after we've done that. This does mean that removing a component is relatively slow, but that should happen far less often than actually putting it on the screen. We can actually remove the entire first section of the for loop there. We don't need it anymore. And go for that. And we're going to set each one of these meshes to the one that came after it. Copying the transforms is going to get a bit complicated, but not too bad. I'm actually going to do, that refactor I mentioned earlier of like moving this matrix copy out. I'm actually going to do that. So we're now using it in 3 places, and like 1 place is obviously don't refactor that. 2 places is consider it, and 3 places is yes, definitely refactor that. Yeah, so basically copying, moving them down. So we're always getting the removing the item by just replacing it with the one after it, and then propagating that all the way up the chain. Okay. It's static, it's not usable anywhere else. Get rid of that. And it's basically exactly the same as the code we had down there, except... Oh, what have I done there? The only difference is this is going to be reused between places. Many places. So we can get rid of this straight away. And then we can use the same function down here. And we're starting to just eliminate a lot of the code just by doing that. And I can tell you from experience, less code is almost certainly better than more code. I think I changed this, didn't I? Yeah, originally I was going to have a separate pool of IDs specifically for mesh components versus just ordinary components. But then when I kind of realized I was going to have these 2 separate lists, one of IDs and one of the actual data, it just didn't make any sense. It's just a second layer of indirection for no real benefit. Okay, I don't see any red squiggles except this here, which is just because the C in IntelliSense doesn't quite understand what that syntax is. Oh yeah, I'm actually just going to delete out the code here that plays audio. I was just testing that worked still. After I made a pretty significant change to how the importer works in this. I was trying to make sure I hadn't broken anything in the process. I'm not actually importing the, I'll say, what's it talking about? Because I hadn't imported the mesh kind of header. It didn't know what this was. It's actually a macro. So something I've ended up doing which is quite complicated is that the import of assets is done by generating C code, right? And the reason for that is these assets are tiny. It is not worth the massive complexity of, say, loading in a separate binary file, whatever. And they're very, very, very much bound to the code. There's not really that much scope for, say, extending or anything like that after release without updating the code as well. So I was like, well, I'll generate code. And the problem with that is you end up with some massive C files that take a while to compile. So they end up in their own C files, so they just get compiled and then just linked at the end. So yeah, it only recompiles those files if the actual texture or model that they're based on changes. However, that then poses a problem because that means you can't you can't use an external variable in a top level variable in C. So it has to be a function, like a factory function, which kind of sucks because now I've taken, so if I've got the font where every single character in it is a separate image for reasons, I end up with hundreds and hundreds of factory functions, which sucks. So I'm in the process of making it so that in a release build, it will actually just inline the the data into here, which you don't want during a normal build because it'll make the builds take forever. But in a production build, absolutely. And as a consequence of that, any code that interacts with imported meshes needs to be able to handle either a factory function or the raw kind of like data. So that's what these macros are for. It's basically saying import it wherever it came from. It could be a function if you're doing a development build, or, well, I haven't actually done the production build side of things yet. But yeah, so like a development build, it's a factory function, so execute it. Production build, just use the data directly. Making a delicious mess in here, and I love it. So what we're actually looking at here is what I call a script. And each script basically has a unique identifier. And we basically keep a record of which script is current. And when you actually say load up a save game, it's actually going to look at that and run the appropriate script. So the script is responsible for everything. It creates the, creates the environment, puts characters in, that kind of thing. So a script could be a cutscene, or it could be, say, the setup for an entire room. So yeah, that's basically it. So I currently have this test script that basically just loads a model, puts it on the screen, and sets a fixed camera. Nothing more fancy than that. So this static mesh here is based on the old approach, which is way more components. So now I want an opaque mesh component. So entities, opaque mesh component. So these names are getting pretty long, but I like long names. Oh yeah, we actually need to make an entity first. Yeah, so that's one of the other differences, was that previously you didn't make components, you made entire entities via a factory, and that meant that you couldn't actually compose them together in any kind of interesting ways. Hopefully this will allow for that. So you can create an entity, you give it nothing. It's basically just like it just creates you an ID. It's like the linchpin that holds all of these components together. And then we tell it, put a mesh component on that entity using this mesh, and I'm just going to give it an identity transform, so it's not going to actually transform it at all. Not really sure why I put matrices in video, like they're generally used for it, but like they're also going to be used for like audio and stuff, so move it at the time. I think I made an identity matrix. Yes, I did. Thank you, past me. Right, this will probably crash. There's only one way to find out. Ah, yeah, I've changed header files, so we're going to want to use make.j. I try and avoid it generally because if, although it's like about 8 times faster, any error messages will just end up like chopped up into tiny slices and you won't be able to see them really. Yeah, whenever I change a header file, the moment my make file is recompiling everything because, well, you don't know where it was imported from the make file. However, once all those millions of tiny images are built, for example, if I do this, that's a pretty fast build. So let's see what happens. Hey, good times, good times. Crash straight away. Now, I said earlier, oops, I forgot I had that keyboard shortcut set. As I said earlier, when at the moment the error thing just basically crashes the game. It does nothing else. So I don't actually have any idea which error trap was hit. So let's fix that. Let's I keep everything that's actually exposed to the runtime in this API folder, so I'm going to put it in here. This means I will have two things called error, which isn't ideal. I don't really want to move it because it's used in a lot of places. Oh, also I didn't put the H suffix on that. That was good. Good job past me. I suppose it's just error message. That's the only thing we're really storing in here. And we want to be able to get a pointer to the error message, so that's... we're not using the prefixes here though, because the EF prefix is because, well, the game I eventually plan on making with this engine is going to have the initials EF. But for the API, the actual bit that calls in, that gets called in by the runtime is meant to be game agnostic, so that shouldn't have the prefix on it. So at the moment, there's no way of doing any kind of like there's no kind of templating or anything like that. Generally, the errors I'm kind of like handling are much simpler and they don't really need much templating. Almost done with this documentation, it's a boring part. But then I also quite often find I actually catch most of the bugs when I'm writing the documentation comments, because I write something out and go, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they ever use it like that? Okay, so now we need to put a C file in here. And, I'll put the actual message all the way down in the error helper, I think. Not static, this is a header file. You can't have static in a header file, Now, something that always confuses me with C. with C, I want a mutable pointer to immutable characters. How do I do that? Because like const char, does that mean it's an immutable pointer, or does it mean it's a pointer to immutable characters? I can never remember. Well, anyway, let's just make it mutable, whatever. We're in control here, probably. And that's good. What do you mean it's undefined? It's right there. Anyway. Why am I bringing these headers in? What am I doing? There's no balls or ints in here. I probably copy pasted this from wasm.h, probably. Yeah, I probably did that when I was trying to figure out how you do inline assembler on this compiler. We need standard definite. We need a. I don't know how you meant to say that to def, because we need the. We need the null constant, and then in here we just grab the those. Okay, so that should be good. I changed the header file. Oh, that's right. Hang on. I see what I had it. I've got a true here, so I actually need. Oh, Actually needs standard ball. But C doesn't have true and false by default, which is just wonderful. Well, let me do that. Apparently it will. Well, I won't argue. So next up, we actually need to modify the actual runtime. At the moment, there's only one runtime. It's written using just a straight up HTML file because it's not really a lot to it. It's not really worth like splitting this out yet. This to-do section here is about state buffers. The idea behind that is it's so that you can have save games and stuff like that. Basically, I have a system in here for state, and you're able to basically just make a list of areas of memory inside the application that should be kept during a save game. So that's where things like the scripts ID and anything else will go. And then this will just pull those memory addresses out, store them, and then put them back into the application before starting it back up again. All right, so where am I going to do this? Here it is. We have this really simple. Yeah, there it is. Let's see if we can't get the error pointer out. So I built this really simple set of like functions that allow you to kind of like pull out exports from the WASM module. So we can, what did I call this? It's called like error message, didn't I? Yeah, error message. Are we inside the try here? Yes, we are. Okay, this is kind of crap, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, oh, actually I already have the ability to get that. I either have to move all this outside the try block, meaning it's no longer really being exception handled, or I copy paste it. And you know what? I'm going to pick copy pasting. Okay, so now we need to get a pointer. So this is going to return us an int probably. Yeah, so if we get 0, the game didn't provide an error message, so we just log that. Otherwise, we need to, oh, console.warm, no, warn. Otherwise, we need to retrieve the actual error message and log it to the console. Right, so what we're going to get back is a pointer. So now we need to check the pointer actually lands inside the memory of the application. This is starting to get complicated. Yeah, because I can't just call get exported. It doesn't actually exist. It doesn't actually exist at this point. All right. Okay, so it's possible that an error would occur before the game even starts up. You know what? I'm going to take all this, I'm going to throw it away. I'm going to make a second try catch inside here after the application's actually started. Well, at the point at which we start interacting with it. Is this the first time we ever interact with it? Yeah. So I'm going to try catch around all of this. Oh, wait. Where's this try catch? Oh, wait. Ah, I'm getting lost and confused inside my own code here. What's this complaining about? Oh, it's just saying it's unnecessary because it throws exactly as it catches. Now, I do have helpers in here to get pointers and things. The problem is that they're all currently built around the idea that you know how long the data is going to be. We're looking at a null terminated string here, so can't quite do that. I think I did have a thing in here for checking. Actually, that's right. I had a get memory pointer. There we go. This one does require length, but maybe we can make a fixed length version of it. Yeah, none of this is relevant. We're getting individual bytes now. Okay, like I'm going to go a bit quiet here because I'm actually thinking and it hurts. Okay, so we have our pointer. It's going to be, yeah. So I'm going to put to do in here straight away because I am not going to bother properly decoding UTF-8 at the minute. We'll do that some other time. We know what's going in. It's not actually going to be anything more than it's going to be a basic ASCII set, so it's fine to just leave it as like it is right now. So what kind of loop do I want here? Because there's actually multiple criteria I want to check. First of all, I want to check, does it actually fit within memory? And then we want to check, I'm going to actually grab the next byte out of memory. So can I get a byte out of that type? What is that? Let's do some Googling. Resizable array buffer or shared array buffer. Okay. Do I just have the ability to get a byte out of this? But then it. I wish I hadn't really done this because all of these types are basically these really complex. Well, not necessarily complex, but kind of like deep hierarchies, and it can be quite hard to know what you're actually working with. I just want to get a byte out of this by its index. byte array, blah, 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 blah. You cannot directly manipulate the content, so you need a data view. Okay, so I think that's where we get a scroll. We need a uint data array. Is that right? I think it is. Yeah, here it is. And then we pointed at the memory buffer and our offset. So we can actually turn that back into a const because we're able to give an offset there. And if we've reached the end of the buffer, then we know something's gone wrong. Okay, that's all good. So we have the next spice. I'm gonna need, I'm gonna need a byte check here. Okay, so now we have our accumulator, we can start putting a string together. And if it's 0, so if it's a null byte, we know we've got the end of the string and we can just return the accumulator. Otherwise, we need to get the actual Unicode code pointer, and this is actually quite complicated. So I'm going to use this to do as a crutch. And I'm just going to assume it's ASCII. So I think it's from code point, that will probably do. That'll do. Can the internal screaming from the back please quiet down? Okay, that might work. That might work, we'll find out. Yeah, I'm trying to mostly keep this this game kind of built using tools you could have found 10 years ago because they're very likely to still be around. But some things, like say this web runtime, there's just no good alternatives to the Node's ecosystem really. What do we have? It lacks an error message export. I didn't put this qualifier on it stating that it should be exported. So now I rebuild the game, change the header file, so we need to make J because it's going to change every file. Come on. Yeah, I've been putting off this error handler for a while. One thing having some people watching over my shoulder is doing is making me actually fix things rather than leaving them broken. What do you mean it lacks an error message export? It's right there. Oh, do I need it on the implementation as well? That's fair enough if so. Too many opaque mesh components. There we go, we finally got our error right. So I'm actually going to do a commit of just that, as that was actually quite a lot of, this is all kind of like grouped together. It's stuff I can commit without worrying, without worrying about it possibly breaking other things. Let's get rid of that, we don't need that. This feature here, being able to stage a selected range, chef's kiss. So good. Not all code sucks, just most of it. Okay, so why does it think there's too many opaque mesh components? So it's running through and it's looking for a component ID of none. Well, it should be finding one really, shouldn't it? Because this syntax should be initializing this range to all that. So let's do a little experiment. Does that fix it? Because if it does, it means that syntax doesn't work, which is a shame, but no, it doesn't fix it. There must be another issue. Probably not returning the number, am I? I'm not returning from here. So yeah, what it's actually doing there is it's looking for a free slot. It's finding it, it's filling the slot, and then it's just carrying on and trying to find another free slot until it reaches the end and it's going, we got too many components. So I want to return the component ID there. Build. Okay, we have nothing. And that, ironically, is something, because that means it didn't crash. But these are quite often the harder problems to debug. So did I have any kind of transform on this? It doesn't look, oh, sorry, it doesn't look like it. Ah, I know why we have nothing. I'm making a list of all the meshes, not doing anything with it. So in here, we just need a function that we can call from our main advance. So what this is going to do is it's basically just going to, well, draw the objects. So then I'm going to go to advance. So when I say an advance, what that actually means is it's actually kind of like a bit of a throwback to when the engine was a bit more complex. Because previously I had like advances the game state by 1 frame. And then I originally had separate video and audio render functions. The idea behind that being, well, for example, for VR, you could actually render the scene from 2 different angles, and then you could sample the audio from all sorts of different angles. You basically advance the game state once, and you can render it from all sorts of different perspectives. However, like, I don't think anyone's going to ever run this game in VR, so I cut it out. No need for the complexity. So I'm going to put that in there. So when I say layer, what they actually mean is, because it's not just copying the pixels, is it? It's actually like doing blending and stuff. So it's actually layering it on top. I don't think that's a great term for it, but yeah. Come on, build please. Faster. Oh yeah, this function doesn't actually do anything, does it? So we're going to run through here. We're not going to go for the whole list because we actually have a short list. Yeah, we've got a nice dense array. And then we're going to make a matrix. We are going to then, do I have the matrix stuff imported into here? No, I don't. So I'm just going to grab that. And I think I've also got a camera. Yeah, I've got a camera file I can bring in. That'll have a perspective transform in it. So then we're going to combine the two. And I can never remember which order these go in. I think it's projection, then model. Let's check. Oh, there's no matrix in here at all. Oh, I just didn't have any control to be able to... Right, I didn't have any matrix multiplication at all in here. Just using the camera matrix directly. Okay, let's fix that. So we want to multiply camera matrix by the transform. And then layer and mesh onto the video buffer. So I'm going to need to import the video buffer from here. Ah, I didn't tell it where to actually save the result of this multiply. I went, multiply these two together, and it's like, well, where do you want it? I don't know. Okay, let's give you a refresh. Again, it hasn't crashed. Kind of bodes well. Let's try using the camera matrix directly. Let's try naming it correctly, that works too. Okay, so something else is going wrong here. Let's just make sure we're even hitting anything here. We're not hitting this, so something else is going wrong. Are we? Ah, okay, we're not actually incrementing our number of... Right, okay. Man, I messed everything up here. Right, I'm just thinking about this and thinking about this. Yeah, I don't actually need to search on creating a new component, do I? At the moment, I'm currently searching through the whole list of components and looking for an empty slot. I don't really need to do that, as it's always going to be putting them on the end. The only thing I need to check is, do we definitely have enough components? Must have copy pasted that from another file and just not noticed. Oops. Too used to writing JavaScript and PHP, I'm putting triple equals everywhere. Okay, it's definitely hitting this code now, so we can cut that out. Okay, we have a scene rendering. We're back to where we started, but now we have it with well, with a whole layer of additional complexity on top. So, okay, applying the transform matrix, not going to break things. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a quick little hack in here. I mean, it's not like me, is it, to put a hack in things? And I'm going to transform that geometry. So what I have in here, it's that one. And we're going to assume it's 0 because it's just a quick hack. We're not doing anything serious here. Oops, help if you spell video correctly. What am I doing? That should rotate our object. Yeah! Haha! This kind of flashing is because it has a skybox around it, which is like passing through the camera. It lives, it works, it breathes. So I'm just going to get rid of all of that. Just make sure it builds after I've removed everything. Very good, very good. Okay, so a next step, I'm actually just going to commit all this. You see, I removed a lot of code by doing that. I haven't tested removing yet. That's something that will come later on. Oh yeah, I forgot I added identity matrices. I never committed them. Okay, next step, we need to make it so you can have some logic run kind of every frame that a component exists. So, how am I best going to do that? Thinking about it, does it even make sense to do such a thing? I'm thinking. It hurts. I'm actually not going to. Not for now. We'll wait till we have a need for it. So, I take the test scene and I'm going to rework it. It's time to go get some of our models out of our sort of like Blender jail and see if we can make them get into here. So at the moment they're all in this blend file, just for kind of convenience. Well, my convenience, no one else's. We can start dicing it up and splitting it into separate files. Whenever Blender loads. All right. So first of all, we're going to want to get the kind of like apartment base in. So let's grab that. Its origin is like up here for some reason. Where actually is 0, 0, 0 in this? It's there. That's good. That's good. That means we can just put the camera sort of anywhere and it'll kind of work. And we want 0 to be the floor just for kind of like our own convenience. So I just need to start working on splitting this texture up and organizing it a bit because it's a bit all over the place at the minute. Let's get a sprite open. Now, unfortunately, this is actually where we're going to hit a, well, it's not quite agreed yet whose bug it is, but I'm using TGA files just because they're very, very simple to write an importer for. And I'm using palletized files with transparency. And the files Sprite export look valid by some definitions of the specification. I mean, that was certainly valid by my interpretation of it when I wrote the importer. But they're not valid by the interpretation of Blender's importer. So we will not see any transparency in Blender. You'll just see kind of like black squares, which is kind of fine. We don't actually sort of need to see the transparency. Yeah, we've already done the kind of like modeling work. Just switching soundtrack as I've run out of that album. I really do need more. Ah, there we go. That'll do. Bit of star systems. That's instrumental. So I think we're only really using all this in the top left corner. So yeah, we're in the right project. Game, source, rooms. And let's just call it Atlas. And we can now get rid of this background. We'll be using that another time. It can be a separate model as we're reusing it between here and the apartment rooftop. Get rid of all of this, all of it, and all of this. Don't need any of this. Let's actually save it as a TGA, not a PNG. And then I need to actually have a quick look at this and see where the tiles actually are and split it up, because we're going to need to do some edge padding on this to work around limitations of the renderer. So now this is a bit awkward in Blender because you have to switch renderer to be able to change the texture on something, which is a bit weird. It could be worse. How do I make a new texture? What's this doing? Oh, that was making a new texture. It just took ages for some reason. Right, and then we also have to switch it here. Okay, as you can see, all the transparency comes through to Blender. It's just like a big black square. Not ideal, but we can work with it. Right, if I turn on the, well, switch back to Workbench and turn on the render view. Yeah, you can see like it's all there. It's just that for some reason the windows were black because the transparency doesn't quite work. Okay, this is all tiles. All of it. So that actually kind of works for us because it means that we can just move all of it. Yep, and we can move all of this. I can move all of this just out the way down here. And we're just going to basically double space all of these. I'm actually going to change my background color to something that contrasts really well. I normally don't do that because it means that you can, kind of gets difficult to, it kind of gets difficult to balance color properly because, it's contrasting so strongly with the surroundings. But here we want it. Oh, that's vile. That's great. So I'm now going to go into here and I'm going to set a grid with a size of 10 by 10. And the reason for that is that'll give us an 8 by 8 grid with the 1 pixel of padding around it. To make it really obvious where we need to cut this up. Ah! Not ideal, massive waste of resources, but it's easier than fixing the renderer, I guess. I should have done the whole column at once. Why did I not do the whole column at once? After this, the model will look thoroughly messed up, but we can fix it. Okay, there's our tiles, and then I'm basically just going to nestle these in wherever I can find the space. Actually, no, I'm not. Change my mind. Okay, so as you can see, that has messed everything up. That's great. Well, I think I can do actually. No, I can't. I can't make this color opaque. Oh, I've got palette lock on. Can I make this background color opaque? Can I make it like something really bright so I can see it in Blender? No, I can't. Oh, no, I can. It just doesn't show up in here for some reason. So, yeah, we're going to grab everything that's not a tile again. And move it back over there. So that makes all these tiles way easier to deal with. Let's just separate them, move them out. Separate, move out. The keyboard shortcuts in Blender are really good. I'm still not quite sure why moving is G. I think that might be grab, but being able to just grab some geometry, press X to lock it onto the X-axis, so nice. I bet the devs who actually built all those old PlayStation 1 games, we showed this editors and they'd be like, what? How is it this easy to just move geometry around? I bet they had to do all sorts of hacks back in the day, like manually editing config files and writing quick little scripts to like fix whatever deficiencies were in their editors. And then we need to fix the top column and the top row not quite lining up with our new grid. Ah, excellent. Except I've broken the lamp. Okay. Next up, we need to sort out all this mess. So I'm doing this one at a time, just so I don't lose track. Ah, don't play an animation in Blender. Now when it comes to like packing UVs, it definitely makes sense to do the biggest, most awkward islands first. I think one of my curtains is backwards. Yeah. All right, so next up, oh, I just realized that picture frame is also tiles. We never split them up as tiles, so it's probably fun to do as a block. So next biggest thing is the top of this table. So let's move that there, I guess. Okay, it's going well. This TV is kind of massive, so let's put it there. It doesn't need to be perfect. This unwrap doesn't need to be super dense because, even like a Raspberry Pi has like so much more RAM than this game could ever possibly need. We're of course loading all of the assets into RAM right at startup because who cares? Okay, nice. Right, I don't remember. Oh, that's the cardboard box, isn't it? We'll move that in a bit. Let's move this picture frame next. Should really have done this layout much more nicely from the beginning. Oh well. The one nice thing is that we don't actually need this texture to be square or power of 2 because the engine doesn't really care. Do I have more than one copy of this picture? This is the picture frame, right? Do I have more than one copy of that in the scene? I don't think I do. No, I mean, that's the bookcase. Oh, what am I talking about? I'm losing my damn mind. I'm gonna blame the heat. Yeah, this needs splitting into tiles. This feels really time consuming, but I'm looking at the clock and it really isn't. It's just, I guess it's just super boring, so it feels time consuming. So this is the bookcase, which, how big is that? So that's gonna be 8, 16, 24 by 16. 24 by 16. So I think it's this here. Here it is. Okay, got it. Man, it's a shame this music isn't copyright free. It's absolute banger. I'll be playing this in the background right now. Okay, what do we have left? Table. And what's this? I think that's the chair. I think it is. Put it there, see what happens. Ah! Messed up my Alt-Tab order. Paying the price dearly. Almost done with this boring part. Other than the programming, of course. Almost there, almost there. Oh, I missed. I lined it with the background, not with the actual surrounding geometry. And then this final one, you can go down there. I could probably fit more in there just by rotating them, but I'd rather keep them the same way up just because, you know, legibility of the atlas is way more important to me than anything else right now. Why do we have a black square there on there, but not there? That's weird. Anyway, so now we can resize this canvas. I think there's actually a trim option in here, isn't there? Yeah, it didn't do anything though. It's weird. And then we want to extend it by a pixel in every, or do we? I do have it set to clamp to edge, so I'm not going to do that. So now I'm going to turn off pixel rounding because we're going to be doing some damage. Not the 3D cursor in top, well, the 2D cursor in top left corner. And this current size of this is 86 by 1.6. So if I do the math here, oh, that's about right. And let's do the same the other way. It's 116, so 116 divided by 256 is that. It's going to be a lot of internal screaming depending on who sees this. And now we have a much neater atlas, and that's ready to go. So oh, I need to move the light. Actually, it's still not quite right. So I'm probably going to split this into more items, more objects later on. Oh, is that backwards? One that's backwards. Purely so I can animate them. I'm going to have some limited animation here, like the windows opening, the curtains blowing. Maybe some objects in the room move slightly when the window busts open. Yeah, there is a tool in Blender to automatically correct backwards faces. However, it's not going to work for me, as many of these objects are they're not, closed objects. So things like this lamp here, where it's just a single plane. It's like, it doesn't really have any contextual clues as to which is the inner and which is the outer face. Right, so I'm going to call this base. And I'm going to export to OBJ. And export is selected only. So let's see if we can get that into our game here. So it's going to end up being here for rooms, apartment base, I think it's going to be called. Let's see what happens. So my OBJ importer is not very good. What do you mean you can't find it? Oh, how embarrassing. Okay, so state 47 is, I think it's the material name. Yeah. But a period would never be valid in a period would never be valid in a identifier in C anyway, so let's name that a little better. Export again. Okay, it didn't crash. And there's our scene, although... Why is it on its side? That's definitely sideways. Do we have any rotation applied to this? No. So it's kind of like... That's the other way up. It's kind of come through like that. So it's like we're looking along X. Now, it is very possible that there's an axis flip bug in my importer. I've only really tested it with very symmetrical models. Let's get rid of this rotation. Now we have nothing, that's good. Now we have less than nothing, that's even worse. Nope, still not working. Let's just keep turning the model over, we'll see something eventually. Or maybe we won't, who knows. I've got the camera like 10 units out from the center. Let's clear the rotation and see if that works. That was actually outside the room, probably. Nope, still got nothing. It's the worst kind of problems to try and fix. Should be able to see something. All I'm doing is taking a bad situation and making it way... Okay, there, we can see something. What can we see there? Let's try moving it slightly away. Nope, that's made everything worse. Oh, damn it. That's the light. Is this thing doing a... No, it's not doing a Y flip. What's going on here? So we're definitely looking up and seeing the roof, where it should be, because like Z minus is what we've got our kind of like forward axis along. Let's just see if we can see more of the room. This is the worst part of engine dev, incidentally. It's the bit that, like, I always see people, who actually do engine dev professionally meme on. It's just flipping numbers around until like something appears on the screen. Okay, we're almost there. Let's push it back slightly more and hopefully down slightly. Oh no, that's gone very wrong. Almost there. Okay, that's as seen actually rendering an engine. Oh. Next up, I need to figure out what went wrong with the camera setup here. So if I bring the camera in, wherever it is, there it is. Let's actually set this up and then see if it matches up when we actually position it in the scene. So the focal length of this camera is, let's get another view up here. Actually, I'm not going to need two of these. Render result. Yeah, this is a good opportunity to check that the camera system works properly. So then move that back to say 1.5. Do a quick render of it. And we've got the wrong things renderable. Oh, the angel's renderable. Oops. And then back slightly more than that. And even more than that. How far back does this camera have to go? Okay, that'll do. So we should be able to copy these exact coordinates around to our code, and it should work identically. And then at that 1 meter on it says this camera doesn't have any rotation on it, but I'm pretty sure if I had a new camera and I zero out the rotation, doesn't it point down? No, it doesn't. Okay. It's kind of weird. And the focal length was 38 millimeters, so that should produce an identical result. I suspect it's not going to. No, it's not. Okay. Next up, we have to figure out why our results are slightly different. I suspect I suspect this is doing a Y flip and it's not supposed to be. Let's have a look in Objective-C. Actually, let's have a look at the OBJ file I actually made. So yeah, OBJ is a really nice format because you can look at it and you can read, and I can see straight away that it's told fibs because our room is 4 meters long and it's clearly put the y-axis as the kind of like far axis, which is not what we told it to do. Let's see if that fixes it. Might have to make a preset that fixes that if that's how they're going to be swapping axes around, but really asking. Oh no, that's gone wrong in a new and interesting way. So I suspect we might be looking at the floor there. Oh, I wish there was just a way to just stop fiddling with the data. Just do exactly what I told it to. Okay, what's it actually exported? Okay, so it looks like the actual z-axis coordinates are backwards. So do I flip this one or this one? Let's go this one. Okay, that looks right. So now it's kind of weird how people use like z minus as forwards. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but it's kind of weird. There we go. So yeah, our matrix calculation was actually correct. It was actually and our importer was correct. It's actually Blender's exporter that was messing things up, as you can see by looking at the data. Okay, next up, let's put a skybox behind that window. So let's go to apartment. Yep, and we're only going to really need this section here. That's all we're going to need. So I can just crop that out, save it as a new file. It's backgrounds. I haven't really got a folder for this yet. And then we're going to go back into here. I have to do the whole sort of dance with Eevee again just to get this new texture on. Not ideal. We'll deal with it. Let's flip back to our workbench so we can see what we've put on it. That looks a bit weird, doesn't it? It's not meant to look like that, just in case it wasn't obvious. Next up, we should be able to go back around to our code. So we import that background we just made. I kind of wish there was a nicer way around this, because like you've got the folder, obviously, and then you've got the model, and then you've got like the objects within the model. And quite often you just have like a city folder, a city model, and then a city object inside it. And I kind of wish there was a neater way of doing that. So a neat little trick of this system is that, unlike say Unity, where you can only put one, say, mesh component on Well, at least I think you can. Only one mesh component at a time on an object. We can put as many as we like on this. We can transform them independently if we wanted to. Oh, that wasn't good. Have I named this incorrectly? Probably. Not entirely sure why the linker didn't tell me about that, but... It would have been nice if the linker had told me it couldn't resolve something. Now, this isn't currently working. I can't see our cityscape through the window. Is it just that my... How far away is this? That should be within the camera frustum, so it's not that. Let's just get rid of the apartment for a second and see whether it still doesn't render. It still doesn't render. So let's just have a quick check here. Did I do anything strange with this? Ah, I had an offset set in there, so that's probably why. I just realized you guys can't actually see the export window I was just using. Oops. Now does it show up? No. It's weird. Let's have a look in here. Is it doing any funny business with this? Looks right to me. I do like OBJ. I think it's a really nice format. Just being able to kind of, no binary nonsense, no like complicated XML parsers, just vertex, normals, texture coordinates, combine the vertices to make faces, and optionally materials if you want them. So much nicer than FBX. Admittedly, nowhere near the power of FBX, but damn it, so nice to parse. And I was actually able to diagnose an export issue there just by looking at the file. I don't think you would have been able to do that with FBX anywhere near as easily. Okay. Why isn't this working? So the next thing I can try is if we go to the mesh renderer. Let's get a triangle. I guess the next thing we can try is it actually hitting any of this code? It probably is. It's not hitting any code here, so it's not actually rendering a mesh. That's interesting. I wonder how that's happening, or not happening as the case may be. So is it getting to here? It is getting to there. Okay, next up, let's see what code it's actually generating, because there might be a bug with my importer where it's maybe not outputting any polygons or something. That's entirely possible. This is going to get ugly, so shield your eyes if you're easily offended by bad code. Maybe offended wasn't the best word, but like, yeah. If you find poor code disturbing, look away now. There we go. That's a better way of putting it. Now, unfortunately, this is a makefile change. It will cause a total rebuild, so I need to make with jobs just to get it done quickly. That was weirdly fast. What the heck happened there? Oh, it couldn't find a rule to do that. Oh yeah, I didn't actually include that part of the directory path. Now it's building. So I basically told it to hold on to one of the temporary files it makes during a build. What do we have in here? Those definitely flick coordinates to me. I have a theory on what it might be, actually. It might be prematurely clipping the triangles. Oh, wait. I thought I had the draw distance set to 100, not 36. It's nothing. Why would I do that? It means it's like literally 1 unit out of the... This happens from time to time when you try and cancel a make build, is it just gets stuck. And it's not actually going to progress ever. You can leave it there for 10 minutes, it'll never progress. Just have to kill the terminal and make a new one. No mercy. Still can't see it. That's not good. Oh wait, that was the sensor size, not the clip end. I had the clip end set to 10. Aha, now we have a background. Now we can go back into here and we can put our foreground back in. It should just work. It should layer on top quite nicely. There we go. Now, of course, at the moment, I haven't done any of the UV padding, so you can see all the way through these cracks here. It's not great, but you can see the cityscape for the windows. So that's all starting to work. So I'm actually just going to do the UV padding by hand. It won't take very long. Have I got the grid setup wrong? I'm just looking at this. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, okay. I'll set it by 1. There we go. Got really confused for a second there. So what we're basically doing here is basically just filling the row and column of pixels adjacent to the one we actually want, just so that if it bleeds over into the next pixel, it still gets the right color. In theory, I should maybe work around this by making lots of small images, because then they'd all individually be clamped. However, the Blender setup for that would be a nightmare. There are automated tools to do this, however, they wouldn't know the difference between, say, a transparent section and the edge of a UV island, unfortunately. They just don't have the context to really kind of do that automatically. Almost there. Just run make, and it should only rebuild the things that changed. So it should be 1 C file and the link step. So that got rid of a lot of the seams just like that. I've still got bits I have to kind of like fix the seams on, but I got rid of most of the seams straight away. Obviously I want to do this after I've done all the kind of like really annoying complex sort of shaping of islands and stuff, just so I'm not having to like, well, remember to kind of like extend these out every time I make a drawing change. It should only really be palette changes from here on out, so I should be fine. All right, getting there, almost done. This boring bit is nearly done, then we can get back into the boring bit of programming. me just check in Blender to make sure it'd be a lot more visible in Blender if I've missed any part. Ah, I've got the wrong UV map up in here. I need that one. No, not that one. That one. Yeah, I missed the bottom of these. And then surround on this picture frame. Yeah, the tiles are really nice because I could do an entire row and column at once, but for all these like small fiddly bits, I can't really do that. Ah. Ah, wrong tab. Ah. Okay, just a few more of these islands to go, and then we'll all be padded up, and we can ship this and move on to something else. We can then probably start working on the character animation system, which is going to be the next complex thing. I've got rough details in my head how it's going to work, but nothing concrete, so that's going to be fun. Even though this has got transparent edges, actually no, I'm not going to extend them. Save time. Almost there, almost done. Okay, just a few more. And then we get to enjoy all this with the character models. Do all the different poses. Oops, how did I do that? Okay, so one more I need to do, which is this table. And it's done. Let's do a build and see how it looks in Engine. All the seams have gone. Excellent. Oh. Okay, let's commit that. So next step is we need to get the, just gotta make a new file here. going to delete everything in this file that has nothing to do with the protagonist, everything. So this is a new file. We can now freely come in here and we can be like, get the angel out of here, get this out of here, get this out of here, get this out of here, get it out of here. What is that? No idea. Get the camera out. Actually, let's keep the camera there because I'm going to be positioning this character in space. That'll be fine. So we're going to do a similar thing now with the UVs for this protagonist. It should take nowhere near the amount of time that did because it should be a matter of just grabbing this island here. There's far less complexity to this unwrap. And again, we are going to make the background color a bit more vibrant so I can see what the heck's going on. Oh, it does save the background per image. I didn't know it did that. Now, I actually want to keep this layout mostly because this layout is really readable. You can look at it and you can immediately see exactly kind of like how it kind of corresponds to the model. So I'm going to avoid changing that too much. Let's make any folder characters. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to put it in a subfolder just so it generates a bit nicer code. We're going to have like one OBJ and one MTL and one TGA. That should be fine to have floating in the parent folder. So let's roughly center this all up. I need to be careful in adjusting the UVs for this because they're not all snapped to vertices. So I need to be careful to preserve that slight intentional misalignment. It can't center because it's not an exact multiple of kind of pixels. And I need slightly more space than this. So let's go for 67 and 85, I think. Because I need to double space the islands. Okay, all right, getting there. Now padding this will be a bit more complex because it's not just all boxes, those were quite easy to pad. Might need to do this kind of by eye. That'll do. So then again, we need to do the whole dance in Blender, switch renderer so we can choose a texture for some reason. Turn UV snapping off. And let's look at the resolution of this. It is 67 by 84. So again, do some maths, scary maths. And 84. Should then be offered up roughly to the right spot. That's weird. Have I accidentally cut off a row of pixels? Oh, I think I have as well. At least it's a row of pixels that should be symmetrical between the two halves. What are these? Those aren't there. Where have those come from? Who knows? So yeah, I'm going to need to widen this entire image very slightly, which is annoying because it means I'm going to have to redo all this UV alignment, but lost an entire column of pixels. And we're coming up to the end of the day. We've done a lot of annoying busy work today I was putting off for quite a while. So our resolution is now 68, so we need to do 68 divided by 67. That should now line up. It mostly seems to. What's these? Oh, those are the top and bottom of the stick. Yeah, I remember that. Why is this the wrong size? I mean, it's probably close enough. I don't know. Just snap all these to pixels. Yep, very good. And then these along here need to be moved half a pixel sideways. So we're at 68 pixels, so 0.5 divided by 68 is whatever that number is. Done. It's really nice just being able to just type numbers in like that. Really great feature. And still in the EV renderers, which is applying lighting we don't want. There we go. So that model should look pretty good. We're going to have seams all over in Engine, but let's get it exported and see what happens. Oh, not in the protagonist folder. I need to get rid of that at some point. It's going to keep tripping me up until they get rid of it. Protagonist. So let's make a new entity. Or you could just not rename. You could just not rename. The rename's kind of sketchy on C in Visual Studio Code. Not entirely sure why. At the moment, it's just going to be like a static T-posing dude. We can fix it later on. Does that work? Let's find out. Ah, I have another bad material name. Go. Okay, it looks like it's working. Hey, character model in Engine. Hell yeah. And again, like it's going to be covered in seams, which we're not going to be able to see from here because most of the seams are kind of like pointed away from the camera. But I think there's maybe one there. All right then, so we've only got 8 minutes left today, but, well, actually no, we've got 11 minutes left due to the, I started late. The next thing I need to start doing, I'll commit this first of all, but then I need to start thinking about like an animation system. I need to be able to kind of like make, like say, a queue of 3D models to kind of like move through in a flipbook style. So let's just get this done first. So I did kind of have this, oh, let's just fix this as well. Did I forget to commit this? Sort of. We can get rid of that font test now, we don't need it. Yeah. One of the funny things about using this particular compiler setup is I don't have a standard library, so I didn't have any trigonometry functions, so I just basically generated a trigonometry table and then wrote some really terrible code to do lookups against it. It works, I guess. So I think I actually had an animation. Yeah, I have an animation kind of file here. So the thing is, to actually do an animation, I need to be able to have kind of like scripts running every frame on an entity, so it can kind of like, well, also kind of timer system or something. So I think I'm going to do that next. So I'm going to add the ability to have an advanced component. So you can basically like, this entity has this script, it runs every time the game state advances. It's going to be very similar to the mesh, very similar indeed. It's just going to be like, again, just a dense queue. Oh, I'll call it advanced. It's like, I can't just call it advanced. I already have a thing called advanced, but I'll call it advanced components. That works for me. So let's start changing everything in here. And this is where the real errors are going to creep in because we're doing copy, paste, and edit. That's usually where things get messed up. And we're going to need a callback. So if I go into component, there should be a, I can never remember the exact syntax to do this. We need a callback that gets rendered, that gets executed whenever you render. So I'm probably going to want the ability to pass in arbitrary data to a callback so that you can, yeah, so you can have some context. Because like the callbacks, we don't really have lambda expressions in C because there's no dynamic allocation in this. And you kind of like, you know, when you need to be allocating somewhere if you're storing the data captured by lambda. So what we're going to need is, we're going to need, yeah, just basically like, the component ID might be enough. I don't know though. That will do for now. Keep it nice and simple. Put in features when we need them. Get rid of all of this. And then much like with the meshes, we're just going to have a single function we call into. It goes through the entire dense list and just executes them all one by one. Now, a complexity that I really need to think about with this is if we're running through the list, it's possible that an advanced component during execution will actually say delete itself. So I need to think about that carefully. It needs to be able to continue off from wherever, and new ones could also be added. I think about how that's going to work exactly. Ideally, it wouldn't execute newly added ones on the same frame. I might need to actually make like a second copy of the entire list every time I advance through, which is going to be annoying and a bit wasteful, I think. You're doing a copy on, say, like about a kilobyte's worth of memory, but I can't really see how else I'm going to get around that. Yes. So make sure there's no other references to meshes in here, that's good. Okay. And we're going to do, again, same thing, because the code's going to be very similar to this. But we're going to delete every reference to video in here. It's going to have nothing to do with video at all. Every instance of meshes is going to be removed. So we're going to instead store an array of callbacks. Let's get rid of all these meshes. Ah! Okay, we can probably do a find replace, and that's going to appear frequently enough we can do that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that and that. Almost there. Almost there. Get rid of that now, we don't need that anymore. Still got lots of references to meshes everywhere. Let's get rid of all of these. Probably would have been quicker just to write new code, to be honest, wouldn't it? Oh, have I just spotted the bug? I think I have. In the destructor here. Yeah, I'm only copying down one. So when actually deleting a mesh, you'll actually end up with bits of it, only bits of it being removed, and so you'll end up with like object swapping positions. I think would be the most common thing we'd see. We'll fix that another time. And this file won't compile, so that's probably a good place to leave it. So yeah, we got a lot of boring, busy work done this morning. Would have been nice to be able to finish the movie theater mesh and textures, but yeah, due to external factors, not really possible, but at least we got something done. So, might well end up doing this again tomorrow as, well, the conditions are going to be similar. So, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.